Good morning, Phil.
Good morning. Sorry, am I muted? No, I'm not muted. Good morning.
How are you?
So let's get the video on here. I thought it was a 7 o'clock meeting still. I didn't realize it was 8.
Oh,
I was thinking,
yeah. So, well, yeah, based on a lot of input.
yeah, and I remembered that now, and so all is good in the world.
Good. So did you click on a Zoom link where it said 7 or 8?
I didn't have a Zoom. I didn't have the Zoom link,
Oh,
and
you
so
didn't?
I sent a quick message to Jim Stoffer and also Brian and said,
Uh-huh.
guys, what's the passcode? And so they both forwarded me the email. I saw
Okay.
the email from yesterday, but I just saw the title, Jay Inslee,
Yeah.
5 o'clock. Okay, I don't need to open that email. So you
So
see,
also,
I should always look and check the email, not just the title.
yeah, it also, you got to weigh do you bombard people with more emails or try to put more into one? But I also, on our website, we always, under new, like webinars and news and resources, both those tabs, we put the links to these.
Okay, good.
Just for
So,
future reference. Yeah.
good to know. Well, Peggy, have you seen your name in the corner?
Well, we created she's the one that signed us up for Zoom.
Okay.
Yeah, it does say I'm Peggy Simmons. I suppose I could sign in as me, but only Peggy has authority to start the meeting because she owns the Zoom account.
We did the same thing with James. James is the one who has the Zoom account set up.
Yeah.
Well, so it was, I'm very glad that the Senate passed the PPP again. And so now they passed that yesterday, but then they say it may not be passed by the House until Thursday. I'm thinking, guys, you're in the same building. Can't you get it there quicker?
Yeah, they're voting remotely though.
Oh, okay. That would be true.
Yeah. So, and they're trying to, if one person shows up to DC and says on the floor, I want a hand count, or I want not just a verbal count, but a count where people have an opportunity to speak, then everybody has to show up. And so
I don't think anyone will do that these days.
Yeah, so they're trying to get everyone to agree, but if they've got some rabble rouser that won't agree, then they do an amendment to it and it has to go back to the Senate again.
Okay.
So for right now, they're trying to get everyone in line so they'll all agree.
It'll happen.
I hope so. I would expect so, but we'll see.
Yeah.
I'm gonna turn that light off behind me. Go.
Well, we are now in week 5 from working from home, and everything is going remarkably smoothly with technology. Sometimes we have a little issue with bandwidth at home here, but not too often.
We have it frequently.
You do?
Like this, everybody has to be off.
Okay.
And so I've got, let's see, 4 adults here, and one that is taking a course with, well, he's a sophomore at Gonzaga, electrical engineer. So he's taking online courses. So he has a lot of bandwidth. An intern that's living with me that's here, and his, I'm constantly tasking him, asking to do things. So he's literally living with us.
Okay.
Not paying rent or anything.
Sure.
And
that's what you call on the job training.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, learning how to make a bed. And my husband has very distinct rules.
Well, number of years ago, when I was in my little office on Spruce Street, I hired my brother-in-law, John Colson, and his first day of work, I was in England visiting my father because he was in hospital. And so we had him on his first day of work, cutting the grass in the office.
Yeah.
So there's a lawnmower, get the grass cut. So,
Yeah. Yeah.
And we actually went and hired someone in the insurance business, a lady called Darcy Hager from Allstate in Port Angeles. And her first day of work was last Wednesday, so a week today. And obviously she's not seen anyone in the office except James, who dropped off her phone and computer for her. So she's just, her first week now is over and she's just working remotely. So she's just learning all the systems and everything. So we've even been able to hire good people at this time.
Right. Hi, Lena.
Hi.
Say hello as you walk off. So
I know.
Good morning.
Good morning. I did.
Lena, do you know Phil? Phil, Lena?
Hi,
Hi.
Lena.
I was just trying to get a couple more PPP applications in
Yeah.
this morning. So.
And I know First Federal asked me to send out a notice, and Christine's going to be on the call this morning. She asked if she could speak. Christine Walsh Rogers, who's running the PPP program from First Federal. And I spoke to Matt Dinas yesterday before I wrote the letter to the congressional delegation about, you know, the issues that are integral to the program. And so he gave me just, you know, he was like, I love this, but here, add this. So just, you know, if a bank is going to do a $350,000 loan, they make $17,500. If a self-employed person does a loan, and let's say they make the average wage around here, $4,000 a month, then the bank makes $500. So, you know, which one are they going to process first? And the whole first come, first serve, that there was nothing from the SBA that dictated that. And the SBA said it would pass, you know, handle things first come, first serve. So anyway, that's what that, I don't know if I sent it out more broadly. I made a mistake of CCing some people on the email to Terry Wade and Leah Leach, and they said, oh, we don't like to publish things that other people have seen. So they were going to do that, but guess not. But I think it was, you know, and also people that are brokers, they're having a loan broker, they're trying to get loans through because they get 1%. And then, you know, there's no, you know, when the bank has too many over here and then they get a little more here and they have to pay someone a fee over here, which one are they going to do? So it's really, but I don't know if you guys read the details on, or actually read the bill. Did you guys, the new one that this passed?
Is it different?
Yeah. And because it talks about community banks, I have it here somewhere.
Does it change the forgiveness calculation at all, or is there any kind of criteria related to a reduction in sales or revenue?
No, it just talks, I didn't see anything like that. It did put another 10 billion in for the EIDL grants. Yeah.
Hey, Lena, who do you work with? You say you're processing loans.
I have an accounting business.
Oh,
and
okay.
So yeah, so I'm working with my clients to get all of the information uploaded for the PPP loans. And, you know, I think my perspective is that some of the lenders were taking the larger loans first, as you were kind of talking about, you know, but really in the first batch of loans, I had all sorts of dollar values of loans get through. So it wasn't just the big ones. And I think now I've been working very closely with First Federal and Sound to make sure all of the paperwork that they have is ready to go. And I think we've been working together to, what I think is going to happen is that they'll just be able to process the loan now.
Right.
And it's a wide variety of dollar amounts. So
does anybody want this? This is the text of the document.
sure.
Sure.
Maybe that. Okay.
And then I've had several, I think I messaged you yesterday, Colleen, I've had several idle funds come in.
Yeah.
Several clients that have had idle loans come in.
Cindy, do you want it too? Cindy?
Yes, please.
Okay.
I didn't mute.
There we go. I'm sending you the link.
So I'll be right back. I'm going to try to get one more loan started.
Okay. Hi, Brad. Hello, Brian Garrett. Guess he can't hear us yet.
Hey, Brian.
Oh,
Hi,
hey,
Brian
Phil, how are you?
Garrett.
Hey, Colleen.
Good morning. I was thinking this morning we would go over, well, first, Christine Walsh Rogers is going to be joining us and kind of wants to give an overview of what First Federal's been doing. So I think that would be helpful, but she's got to jump off at 8:30, so I want to make sure I get to her early on. And then also, I want to be discussing the ESD process and that people are, getting $235 initially. And I think that's going to go to 835, but I'm not clear. Maybe they just do the remaining up to 600. I'm not sure how that's going to work. The way it was written is not clear to me in that last email they sent out. And so hopefully Brandino will be on the call. I asked him to be.
I was confused on that, and there is a question Peggy referred to me by somebody that I've got to get back to on that.
Okay. I can hear the TV.
Feedback.
Might be Brad, not sure. But then also I've got some news on the Working Washington grant I'll put out. And then the community development block grants. We finally have got a look at that there. I'll go over that. And let's see. And then we have a Funder Summit. Good morning, Judy.
Good morning. How are you?
Good, good.
Good. Thank you for making it 8 o'clock instead of 7.
Hi, Keisha. I didn't call you back last night. I'm so sorry.
Oh, that's okay. I figured you got busy.
Gosh, I'm sorry. I saw your name went. Didn't do it.
No worries.
We can talk right after this.
Okay. Well, you might answer my questions in the process too. So
Maybe, or maybe one of our esteemed business advisors such as Brian Garrett, Mark Hanna,
Possibly.
Mike.
Yeah.
Are
you on mute?
I'm not. Are you, Mark?
Colleen, this is Mary Sue.
Hi, Mary Sue.
Hi, I sent a message last week to the info box asking to talk to you or anybody about a few questions, and I never got a call back. So I'm wondering if maybe the message didn't get there.
Okay, I've got, you know,
Just like Eileen was, I guess.
Eileen didn't get any. It's best if you call me on my cell phone.
Okay.
We're having some issues getting the message. I can't always play it.
Oh, it was an email.
Oh, it was an email.
It was an
Okay.
email to the info, which is now making me wonder if maybe my application never got there, because I sent it to the one that was on that email, the info email. So.
Okay. No, I think the emails are coming through fine, and I know we did get your application.
Oh, good. That's good. So maybe I should call Mark since,
Yeah.
yeah. Mark, I'll give you a call sometime.
Okay. Mark, does that work? I'm going to go with yes. He'll be fine with that.
Thanks. I'll go back and mute myself so I can eat my breakfast.
Good. And Mike Rykoff's here.
Mike Chapman's joined by phone.
Hey, Mike Chapman. How you doing?
Christine Walsh Rogers is here.
Hi, Christine.
Good morning.
Mark Hanna's here too, and he finally found where to click on his speaker.
And I see Corey Armstrong's here.
Does anyone know how to see everybody? It says that you can see up to 49 people, but I can't change it past 9.
Have you made your screen as large as it can?
Yes.
Okay.
If you click on participants down at the bottom, it'll bring up a list of the people that are participating.
You may have a thing in the upper right-hand corner that says speaker view or, see everybody view.
Yeah, I
That's what mine is.
one that says grid, and then the other one
Yeah.
says speaker view, but and that changes it to the speaker, but the grid just changes it to 9 people, and I just can't see anybody else.
It probably has arrows on the side to span through to everybody else that's on the call.
Well, that's a great idea. I didn't even think of that.
So I see Corey with his baby. Corey, are you still in the hospital with your little guy?
Yeah, Abraham wants to say good morning. We are.
Good morning.
we are in the hospital. We're going to be in the hospital for a while.
Oh, okay.
We've been here.
He looks good.
Oh yeah, he's been here 3 months. He's had he's doing gene therapy. So he's had his stem cells transplanted, and he's doing great.
Wow.
Yeah. So he'll be listening in for a while, and then Mom will take him.
Okay. All right. Let's see. Well, hello, everyone. I see Steve Theringer has joined us. And hi, Steve.
Good morning. How's everybody doing?
Well, considering all things.
Everybody's healthy. That's good.
Uh-huh.
All right.
Mike Chapman's there as well. Thank you. And Christine Walsh Rogers, who's from First Federal. So I know she's got to get off here fairly soon. And so there are different things we want to go over, but Employment Security Department, I was hoping Brandino Gibson might join us. I'm not seeing his name here yet. And give a little update on the Working Washington grant, Community Development Block Grant, and the Clallam, but also talk about PPP loans and the EIDL loans that are being refunded, and we do have the language. I found it on the internet for the PPP and the EIDL, the new bill that the Senate has passed. So if anybody wants to read that, let me know and I can send it off to you so you can read it firsthand. It's 25 pages long. So anyway, Christine, would you like to share how First Federal's doing right now for us?
Yes, I'd love to. So thank you for letting me share some news with everyone. We were able to get some customers funded in the first round, and we've at this point, I think, funded all of those loans, or maybe we have one or two remaining with documents outstanding for signature that might be being finalized. In the meantime, we've been working on the pipeline of loans that did not make it through to SBA in the first round and preparing them for submission. Think of them like cars on the racetrack, and we've got them ready to go. So once we got those lined up, we started accepting some new applications from customers. And what I'd like to share is that for today only, we'll accept applications from non-customers whose businesses are located in Jefferson or Clallam County. It's important to us as the only bank headquartered on the Olympic Peninsula that we make sure that we're here to fill some of the need that might be left by other banks that are unable to participate in the program, or credit unions that are not participating. And so we're going to limit that to the businesses in Clallam and Jefferson County so that we can handle them properly. We're going to take applications through 5 p.m. today. If you are a business owner and you are interested in getting an application started with us, please email us right away at ppp@ourfirstfed.com. Real simple, just ppp@ourfirstfed.com, and a customized link will be sent to you to get your application in. We're going to stop them at 5 o'clock today because right now we're anticipating that new funding will open up on Friday morning, assuming everything kind of goes through the House today. And like we said, we want to have all those cars ready on the racetrack. So we'll fill up what we can do today. We'll process them all through tomorrow and have them all ready for submission. If we get more ready than we think we can, and the funding's not ready yet, we'll continue to keep accepting new applications from folks who need it. But we wanted to, of course, like most of the community, there were some reasons for taking care of your own customers with some of the know your customer rules and things like that. For those of you who are non-customers who might apply with us, we will be taking you through a separate process to get your beneficial ownership information and other documentation we'll need for your business outside of the application, because our application has been built for customers. So don't worry about that. Someone will contact you if you have any questions along the way. There'll be somebody that you'll be able to be in touch with.
I've got a question here.
Sorry.
I just have a question, Christine, about the PPP loans, and particularly in the state of Washington, where we have non-essential businesses that can't be operating, and they have some employees. And what I read in the ESD is if they apply for a PPP and they get it, then their employee gets wiped off of the unemployment and the pandemic. But now they're sitting there and the business has to pay the employees, whatever that amount is, a little bit more than they'd be making, but they're not working. So, I mean.
Correct. And that is, I mean, I am not one of the crafters of this legislation at all, but my understanding of it is that was the intent is the Paycheck Protection Program was to protect people's paychecks, whether they were working or not, and to keep them off of unemployment. So an employer would take this loan and use it to pay the payroll in a case where they weren't having, let's say, the cost of goods sold or the cost of services helping them to make that payroll. And in exchange for that, those employees stay on unemployment. So that is a different option. If you lay employees off, they are eligible for unemployment benefits instead. but the Paycheck Protection Loan is very specifically for payroll purposes.
Mark, some of the other idea behind it too was that keep your staff in place so that when the economy does open back up, you're not hiring new people and having to train them and have that period where your business doesn't get up to full speed right away.
But wouldn't they be better to try and get their unemployment, get the pandemic unemployment? They're actually going to be making more than what their paycheck was. So why should the business owner take on the debt of the PPP when the state and the feds are taking it on through unemployment?
Well, it's the debt would most likely be forgiven if it's
Correct.
within the 8 weeks.
Right.
So it's not necessarily debt that they would have going. And then, like I said, the idea behind it is to keep your talent and your trained employees associated with your business. So when the economy opens back up, you're ready to go on day one rather than having to rehire people and potentially retrain people.
But unemployment
may-
is giving standby.
If I
I
may,
understand.
Graham Ralston and Michael McQuay, who owns Cocapelli's, were talking about a method. I was hoping Graham would be on here. Oh, he is.
I'm here.
Graham.
I'm
can you
here.
all right. Can you talk about using shared work and the benefits and how if you've got paid hourly employees, how you can potentially get some unemployment benefits and take care of your PPP loan?
Yes. So underneath the PPP loan, there's a requirement that you must pay employees the same rate to the extent of 75% of what they were paid before. So if you're looking at a quarter-to-quarter comparison, those employees, for a full forgiveness underneath the PPP loan, if you paid them 75%, that reduction in hours could make them still eligible for the additional $600 a week of expanded unemployment insurance. Now, when you combine what they would make underneath their previous wages, and then you add on the additional $600 a week, now they're making more with that company than they would have been just completely on unemployment. In at least all of the examples that I've seen so far, scenarios with different companies. Now, because the expanded unemployment insurance is so new, this is going to be the first week or first time where I'm going to see clients try this method to see if it'll work for them. But it's at least worth a shot, because you're right that there is the balance of, well, my employees could make more on unemployment and I want to see them do well compared to what I'm paying them as part of my company. But at the same time, they're also certifying to unemployment that they don't have a job that's available to them. So if an employer is underneath the PPP and an employee is certifying that they do not have the availability to go back to work, now they are looking at committing fraud, or there is potential for criminal prosecution that they're lying on that unemployment application.
But what we've seen on the application for employment security for the pandemic, if an employee chooses to self-quarantine because they are in one of those groups, immune compromised, that they are eligible for that $600, even if
You are correct.
they don't get the state unemployment.
You're correct, but that's not everyone. And I think that the complaint from business owners that I'm talking with is people just want to elect, thinking that it's just a simple election whether or not they're a covered employee. And it's important for our employers to make sure that they're also educating their employees that there is the potential for fraud if they don't meet one of those covered individual exceptions.
It's quite an extensive questionnaire when you're filling out the application. Maybe as employers, we need to help them walk through it.
Yes.
Well, this is still a little confusing for me, because I had seen on the PPP that you have to take whatever money you get, and 75%, at least 75% has to go over for the payroll. But then I did see this thing on the ESD, one of their information websites or whatever, that you bring that employee back, and if they're on the pandemic and unemployment right now, that gets chopped off. So I'm not sure why this, I mean, it's,
Well, they get cut off from unemployment because now they're going to receive their income instead again. So that's the whole point. Like what Graham was saying, is 75% of the total amount that you receive in a PPP loan must go towards payroll expenses. The remainder can be for some of the other simple expenses for operating the business. If you do that, then that amount is forgivable. So I think that there was maybe some incentive in the forgiveness for businesses to take this, you know, to Mike's point. Some of it would be to allow you to retain talent. Some of it might be to allow you to give your employee 8 more weeks of pay so that when they start unemployment after that, potentially, they have that many weeks that they get, because I think it's something like the 26 plus extra 13 weeks because of the pandemic.
And
Yeah,
Christine,
so,
I'd like to build on that, which is that you're right that at least 75% of the loan, of the PPP loan, needs to go towards payroll. I was going more towards that underneath the conditions for forgiveness underneath the PPP, there are certain requirements that you maintain full-time equivalent employee headcount, and also that you're continuing to pay employees at the same wage that they were paid before, at least to the extent of 75%. So if you had a salaried employee making $40,000, if you reduce them below $30,000, you could lose a portion of what you would be eligible for forgiveness from underneath the loan. So this is kind of the second part of the PPP, is looking at forgiveness. But if you were to reduce that employee's wage to 75% of what they were making before, that's how I'm sharing that there could be a method in which the employee could say, I've had a reduction of hours, I qualify for pandemic unemployment insurance, where they're getting paid by the company at a reduced rate of to the company, and they're still capturing $600 a week in expanded pandemic unemployment insurance. This isn't clearly written out in any guidance. This is just kind of a legal hypothetical that we're hoping will work for some of my clients. We don't have anything to rely on in past weeks, seeing as the portal just opened.
Yeah, I was actually private messaging you to ask you if you could
Okay.
share that guidance, because SBA has not provided any forgiveness guidance yet, and a team of local bankers and are getting together with, you know, so that we can be consistent in how we approach forgiveness going forward.
Sure.
Yeah,
There
so
is
if I
little
could
bit of
just jump in for a minute here,
Yeah.
it's hard to get a turn, but I thought I might be able to share a little bit of real time for our company and how we're navigating it. First of all, Christine, wanted to thank you and Colleen for, you know, putting this group together. We were able to get our application in with First Federal for one of our companies after the meeting last week. So thank you very much for that. And I guess that's waiting on the next round of funding. We did get our PPL for our boat building and repair company in Port Townsend funded on Friday last through Heritage Bank. So we all had a little cheers there on Friday. It was we were happy that got through, and how we're working that, you know, because we basically kept our office open. Our business has a mixture of critical infrastructure as well as non-critical. So we laid off, basically furloughed the entire working staff of about 30, and then we rehired everyone back, although not everyone came back, and so some people chose to stay on unemployment and stay, you know, for their own reasons. So what we're doing to keep our level up is we're hiring basically, and also some temp labor to be able to fit that category, and paying a very close attention to navigating it like the discussion is here, to be able to have it qualified to be a forgivable grant. So I just wanted to add that, and thank you, Christine, and First Federal for your help.
I'm very happy to hear you helped. I'm happy to hear Heritage was your other bank. That's where my husband works, keeping it in the family.
Yeah, Wells Fargo, I don't see them on here, and I don't have anything good to say. We had everything lined up with them, and just doing millions of dollars a year with them, and their program opened on, we were told, at Saturday at 2:30, and it shut down Monday morning at 9 o'clock, and so then we scrambled, and I'm happy to say that we're switching banks.
Well, I'm glad to hear that. That may be one of the learnings out of this is there's a reason why small businesses can benefit from working with local community financial institutions. We're your neighbors and we're your customers, and I think that relationship is more meaningful sometimes.
Yeah.
And it can be not necessarily to your local Wells Fargo banker, but to Wells Fargo as a bank.
One thing I'd like to do, Graham, if possible, is going through some examples with our business advisors at another time. Maybe if you had some examples where you could train the 9 of us that are trying to help other companies and some accountants, and then open it up to other people as well if they wanted to sit through, but go through an example with how shared work might work well. And also, I know one element is that business owners should be making sure that they're paying themselves the equivalent of $100,000 a year if they are not able to get their employees back, so that they're using that. I mean, that would then allow for them to get to that 75% of payroll if they've got employees that don't want to come back and they don't have active work for them at that point. So would you be willing to do that, Graham?
Yes, definitely.
Okay. And so everybody, just most people know here, but Graham Ralston is an attorney and a CPA located in Port Angeles, and previously worked at the U.S. Department of Transportation in the small business policy section. I don't have that exactly right, but he's a subject matter expert in all of this kind of law. So we're really lucky to have him as a resource, and he's been providing pro bono services to companies across Clallam and Jefferson for the last month and a half. So big thank you to Graham.
Thank you, Colleen.
And Colleen, I just wanted to say thank you for having me this morning. I've got to drop off for another call. I did share with Colleen our Facebook post, so she could share it with all of you later. But again, the email, if you need to get a link for applying today, is ppp@ourfirstfed.com. Thank you all, and be well.
Great. We'll get that sent out to the 3,500 or so people that are on our constant contact list, Christine.
Okay, thank you.
We'll do that right after this. Okay, thanks. We put it on Facebook already. Okay, the next, I see Brandino is on with us, but I know he was going to be on another meeting until 8:45, so I don't know if he's able to speak with us at this point. If not, we'll just wait till 8:45. Brandino?
Colleen?
Yes, hi.
Yeah, give me like just a couple of minutes. I have you in one ear and I'm just finishing the other one up real quick,
Okay.
and I'll be with you.
Okay, great. So Brandino Gibson is supervisor of WorkSource, which is a component of Employment Security Department, and he handles the offices in Jefferson and Clallam County for us. So we'll skip to another subject. I'll let you know the governor's Working Washington grant. was funded with $5 million initially, and a big reason why there's not more funding in that is because our state constitution has a limitation in gifting public funds. So that means the state can't use taxpayer money to go to for-profit businesses. So you can't loan the public's credit or gift public funds. So because of that, it has to be special money that would fund these grant projects. So there's two sources of revenue. That is the federal money, which is the community block grants that will be coming out here shortly. We've made progress just yesterday working with Jefferson County, that the award for, it'll be about $85,000 only that will come to Clallam County, but that the award was a joint one for Jefferson and Clallam. So we've been waiting on Jefferson County to approve our application, the way we wrote it, and our process for them to submit it. But that grants for business owners whose area median income is 80% of the average. So, which equals $55,000 for a household. So if your household income is less than $55,000, you would qualify for a grant, and we'll get that information out through the CDBG. So that's one part. The other is the Working Washington grant. We closed that application process on last Wednesday, April 15th. We received over 900 applications, even Mike, 900 applications from Clallam County. Well, that's not quite right. We got a lot of applications from other counties, and because they closed their application process within 48 hours. So, and a lot of the applications were blank, or it was kind of surprising. People sent in their application not on a combined PDF, but in pictures that they took from their iPhone, and you could see their fingers. So I had to, and by the way, if you wouldn't mind muting your phone or your computer so that everyone can hear, I'd really appreciate that. We're getting some background noise. Thank you. Anyway, so all in all, there were 620 real applications that we were able to process. And we reviewed all of them to make sure they had paid their L&I and that they really had the number of employees that they said, or it was close according to the reviews that we did. We worked 7 days a week, 16-hour days, trying to get those through and get them into Department of Commerce. We were the second county to get our applications in. And so now they are reviewing all of them. And we did hear yesterday some good news. Somehow Commerce has found some additional funding. So we were told that that amount may double. And we're working with, so we received 90,000 is all. And so initially it was, their guidance was, well, you can give 9 $10,000 grants, but our panel that reviewed all of them, which it was one person from each chamber, and the cities appointed someone, and we tried to disperse the grant funding across the county in a equitable manner according to where the business was located. And they, so we may be able to get twice as much funding, which instead of 1 drop in the bucket, it's 2 drops in the bucket. We received about $7 million worth of requests, and initially we got $90,000. I'm working with the Department of Commerce. Their allocation system was such that they gave every county a minimum of $79,200, which includes Garfield County that only had 2,247 people in their county, whereas our county has about 77,000 and we received $90,000. So I'm telling them in the next round, I really think those very small counties should not receive any money. They already got a per capita share of, you know, up to per person, whereas ours was $1.18. So we'll see. I've made that request. They understand it, but then also King County, you know, would be getting, if it was all by per capita, they would be getting $4 million out of the $5 million. And so they're trying to figure out a system that is reasonable, but I think it's whatever the decision is, people won't like it. So those are the two grant programs that I do hope that people will, even though the odds aren't great, as more, if we are letting commerce know that there is a massive need out there, the good things that come out of it is we now are aware, and this, which means the state is aware that your business has a huge need, and we can more readily communicate with those businesses and offer services from our business advisors. You know, you can't get through on a call to Employment Security Department or Commerce typically, but our 8 business advisors are often on calls with them, and I know I am, so we can give you that personal so I still ask that people do apply for that. And if there is more funding, you know, it'll go to these folks that are applying early on first. So next, Brandino, are you available yet? Or do you want me to go to the next?
I am ready, I guess.
All right.
We'll see.
Very cool. So Brandino Gibson hopefully knows more than the rest of us. We're all kind of struggling through the pandemic. Unemployment assistance is targeted. Well, this audience right here it's for business owners, the self-employed, whether they have employees or not. And then also for those people that have fewer than 680 hours of time accrued. And I will let Brandino take it from here.
Okay, great. Thanks for letting me jump on here, and I'll see if I can answer questions or put some info out there. So as we know, the system for the PUC kind of went live over the weekend, and we took, just as throwing some numbers out there, 192,000 new claims over the weekend. So I know it's been a struggle for a lot of people to get through, and but that just kind of shows you the numbers that we were, that doesn't even include those that were reapplying, and that also, most of that would be either self-employed or those that are applying that didn't meet the prior requirements under that. So let's touch on the self-employed and the businesses first. So one of the things, if and it's kind of interesting because I've been asking this question, not being able to go through the steps myself. Is it clear as you're going through the steps what information is needed? So there are specific documents that we can only accept, and just as I see this, because I volunteered, so I'm doing wage verification, so I can go in and look at those documents, see what people are uploading, and at least get that step through the system so it goes through our UI, to our UI staff. It has to be 2019 taxes. It can't be anything prior to that. And then only specific documentation. So like we can't use, there's a list of specific ones. And then the other piece is making sure that we're looking at net income, and that the input that you're using quarterly, at least the total, matches up with what your tax documents state, or at less, not more. And that's what a couple of things that we're seeing is 2018 tax documents that don't work, so we have to pass those on. So that's going to take a little bit of extra time. Some incorrect documents. So and then also just numbers not matching. And we're doing a claim for more than what was showed in our net tax. Why that's the case, that part I can't specifically answer. Why it's not going off of gross income versus net, but that's the guidance that we've been given. So is there any questions on that piece first before I move on?
Yeah, I've got a question here.
Yeah, go ahead.
Well, anyway, I couldn't quite figure out why is it when somebody files for that pandemic help as a self-employed business that they have to break down their 2019 net income into quarterly parts. I mean, some of the people I'm working with have submitted their tax returns, into their accountant, and they don't have the data sitting there, so they get kind of hung up on trying to break that out. And then part of it just says 2019 tax return would be acceptable. So it's a little confusing when you have to break it down into the quarterly. I don't understand the rationale for that.
Yeah, good question, Mark. So here, so some advice, two pieces to that, and why they break it down quarterly, that I can't answer. As long as they don't have all zeros down there, and if they want to just take that total net and compile it and put it into their December number, then it'll go through. So they don't have to specifically do that and work the math out. Or if they want to do it, just take their net, divide it by 4, and equal it out straight across. That works as well. But again, as long as they have a real number and just not all zeros in those boxes, then it gets through at least our verification step that yes, the tax document and yes, the number that they put in those claim boxes in there match up, or at least are below it. If their number comes out below what their net is, that's okay. We're going by that as long as it doesn't come out above. So hope that at least somewhat answers it. Why we're breaking it out quarterly, I'm not that deep into it.
I know, Brandino, it's like the highest of 3 of the last 5 quarters is how they calculate it. So I'm wondering if, you put zeros in some and then lump all of it in one quarter, that might like harm you if they're looking at 3, highest of 3 of the last 5 quarters. So I would think divide it all up evenly, or maybe, I don't know, maybe even you put the revenue, if you put all your revenue, the highest 3 into one, it almost seems like you could divide it by thirds and then you'd make it higher that way. But anyway, I don't know.
Yeah, and go ahead.
Go ahead. Well, I know a lot of people, the outcome is that they're getting $235 deposited into their account. And then I saw in an email from EDC that they're doing that as a minimum amount. And then there'll be the $600 later when their information is reviewed. So does that mean that self-employed people would be receiving $835 a month, or is it still the max is $600?
No, so they're 2 separate pieces. So the $235 is their eligible unemployment amount. The $600 is part of a stimulus. It's just like the $1,200 that we got from a federal stimulus or whatever you're getting from that check. So it falls into that category. So this is an additional on top of what your regular unemployment is. That went in effect as of March the 29th. So any claim after that point, so that the first week claim would be the week ending of April 4th. So if anybody had a claim and received $1 in unemployment for that week after from the 30th through the 4th, for every week on, they'll get the additional $600 added on top. So like and all of that goes back pay as well. So if you were claiming and you haven't received that yet, most of that went out. It showed paid yesterday, but it went into most banks today. So most people who received that additional $600 and are already getting their unemployment should have an additional $1,200 in their account today, if not more, including this week's. If this week's, since that $600 went in effect, it looks like this week's payment, that typically payments go out on Tuesday, got delayed and will probably hit bank accounts tomorrow. So then if you're getting $235, you'll probably get another $835 tomorrow on top of the $1,200 that you got today, or whatever eligibility you had. If you didn't start claiming until the week ending the 11th, then it would be that week and the week ending the 18th.
So to clarify then, I understand the $600 per week piece, but if I'm self-employed and I've never put money into the unemployment system, and I was making $100,000 per year or something, will I be receiving funds going back to the time when I first apply, or how does that work? If I've been affected by the COVID-19 shutdown, I've been making $100,000 a year, say, maxing out. How much will I be getting from the state on a weekly basis, and when does that period begin?
So just like with anybody that was affected by this, if you're, let's just compare it to those that are on the less than 680 hour. It falls into the same category. So they've not been able to collect at this point, but they've been eligible or would have needed to start collecting, say, from the last week of March. So when you're claiming your original date, you would date your claim based on your last day worked or the day that you closed your business. And then from that day forward, that would be your starting date for your claim. And from that day forward, you would be getting the $235 and then the $600 starting in April.
Okay, so regardless of the amount of money that you previously made, if you were self-employed, the weekly amount will be $235 from the state, going back to the time where you shut down your doors.
That is my understanding.
Okay, very interesting. How many of you knew that that was going to be coming from the state?
I did.
You
When
did?
we saw it on the sheet, when we got the email. But it says it goes back to February 2nd.
That it goes back to February 2nd?
That's what the email Beth got did, is it said it went to February 2nd, but she filed saying that, she was effectively shut down on March 26th. So we don't know why it went back, but we tried to go back and confirm that we did put March 26th, and she did indeed put March 26th. So I'm not sure, but she did get an email today saying she needs to file a weekly for the week of March 28th. So she's going to have to do that.
So one question that I have is, if they're a sole proprietor and let's say they took extra depreciation and have zero taxable income on their Schedule C, what is that going to mean for their qualification for the pandemic unemployment? I mean, there's a lot of businesses that have a lot of gross revenue, but use depreciation to reduce their tax liability, especially in the first year of purchase. And of course, last year with the taxes, who would have known that that would be an issue now? Any guidance on that?
That's probably a little deeper than my knowledge level. Although, again, just based on what your tax documentation from 2019, you're going to show. And again, this goes off of the net income. So your net income is going to be obviously lower than what your gross is. And I wish I had a better answer for you, Alina. That's, again, a little more than at my knowledge level.
So would it be beneficial, do you think, some of these sole proprietors especially receive 1099s for revenue? And I know that that is one of the criteria, one of the acceptable things. So should we include that with the Schedule C? I mean, it's hard to say.
Yeah, no, actually, I would say a 1099 would be definitely, because it's an acceptable document. So if you have a 1099 and I'm doing a review and I look at the 1099 numbers versus what the input that you're putting in there, that works perfectly.
Brandino, if you have any additional, if you can research that a little bit
Sure.
and get back to me, and I'll send that to everybody, that would be wonderful.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah,
and I want to clarify one thing I note here.
Different.
What's that, Deborah?
Well, with the 1099, that almost is gross income instead of net income, because that's what you're getting from your consulting clients or whatever. So if so either you're using the 1099 or you're using the tax return, which may show a loss.
And that's a great point, Deborah, and that's a question that that I have been raising, because I mean, for example, I mean, if we're using a W-2 for somebody, that's gross income. That we're not looking at net income. So why is there? And I don't know the answer to that. I'm just, I'm looking at wage verification. I'm not on the deep end of this. So why that part? Why they're using those numbers? I'm not sure, but I'll definitely ask that, because again, a W-2 is gross income, not net income, and a 1099 is gross income, not net income. But if we're looking at a tax return and we're looking at line 31, that's net income, and that's what we're being asked to look at.
Yes, and Colleen, this is Graham, and there was some interim guidance from the SBA that talks specifically about calculating self-employed income for the PPP, but even for unemployment. And Lena, any of your clients or businesses, they're doing the right thing most of the time by getting a net income down to zero to reduce taxes. So we never want to be in a position where we're proactively creating tax strategy thinking that there's going to be another pandemic, next year. So it's just a very unexpected scenario, and clients and businesses are doing the right thing to reduce tax liability. And unfortunately, now this is the downside of that maybe there's less unemployment opportunities available for them, but it's better to be saving money on taxes on a yearly basis than to be planning for another pandemic or another situation like this.
No, that's a great point, Graham. Yeah, and when I look at these documents daily, I think the same thing. It's, well, yeah, if I'm a business owner, I'm trying to get that number down as low as I can for tax purposes, and yet now with that said, that doesn't mean that you don't qualify. So I'm only looking at step one to this, just our base level that we're working at out here in the field. If those documents don't match the information that I'm supposed to look at, we just pass that back into unemployment expert part, and then they review that as well, and then it potentially could move on. It just doesn't meet our base level step.
Okay, thanks so much, Brandino. There's a point here. I said the highest 3 quarters in the last 5, and I see Angela, it's the 2 highest earning quarters, not the 3 highest. So anyway, next, I see that there's a couple questions about contractors, and here's one from Jim Hagwood. Question for Steve and Mike: what is their prediction for business startup on May 4th and/or extended closer period? I think he means. So Mike or Steve, do one of you guys want to predict the future for us or what the governor is thinking right now?
I can chime in and Mike can follow up. We've got the governor had his press conference yesterday. I think, the governor, just as I think much as anybody wants to open up the economy, the virus is is actually writing the script of what goes on here. And, but there is a bipartisan work group within the legislature that's making recommendations to the governor around, opening things up using, guidelines from other states. And I think there you will see some softening, some phasing probably, after May 4th around probably car sales and residential construction. And then just depending as the data goes from the virus, you'll see, phasing in of more openings, certainly dependent on people, social distancing, wearing masks, having the right sort of public health, hygiene, which I think folks are learning well. The number I've heard is that we're under 200 cases a day now. And if that number gets down to 100, people feel it's pretty manageable. So that's one data point. The other data point is sort of the contact, social contact. Right now, the ratio is 1-to-1. So if you're infected and you talk to someone or you can contact someone and that then spreads to another person, they want to see that factor below 1. So those are two of the data points that are kind of driving, how and at what, phasing the economy will open up. There's a lot of work. There's a number of work groups and the governor's interacting with folks, and he needs and we need the revenue. We need the economy to start picking up for all the reasons everybody knows, for just personal health and for our bank accounts. And certainly the state is just being hammered by the lack of revenue. I'm actually going to be on a call this afternoon with the Appropriations Committee where we're going to get a staff briefing on just how serious this is as far as state revenue. I mean, one thing to look at is the gas tax. The gas tax just disappears in the transportation budget, as Mike knows because he worked on it, was put together with duct tape and baling wire, and now that gas tax has just disappeared. So there's no reason except for the health data to not try to open up the economy. Everybody wants to do that, but we certainly don't want a resurgence where we're back in or this situation or even worse. So I think the key is just to hold on for another week or two and then, follow the right public health regime, and hopefully we can start phasing in. And the last 2 quarters of the year could be, more robust. Right now, it's just a really delicate time. And I don't know if Mike, you have other things to add.
Just a couple things. I think there are some letters that are kind of going to the governor from various legislators. Steve, Kevin, and I sent a letter asking him to relax the ban on home construction. You may have read a lot of the bigger construction projects like Key Arena have been moving on. So I think that it's pretty safe that on a home construction site where the general contractor could say, hey, plumber, you're in here for 3 days and I'll bring the electrician in. I mean, that's a really manageable. And then the other problem that we're seeing is hospitals did the right thing by canceling all their elective surgeries. So Olympic Medical Center, this isn't probably public, but they are losing many millions of dollars every week because their hospital is virtually empty right now. Grays Harbor Community Hospital has laid off upwards of 20% of their staff. And I don't know if you guys noticed, one thing that really jumped out at me is in the middle of a pandemic, that in the last report statewide of the number of job losses, the number 3 category was in the healthcare arena. And partially this is because doctors and hospitals cannot do elective surgery right now. So I know the Hospital Association, Steve and Kevin and I weighed in saying, let the hospitals, they can manage this. They know right now Olympic Medical Center's got empty beds, empty capacity, and they're losing many millions of dollars every week. Well, they can't continue to do that. So I think there's some gentle to firmer pushback coming. I mean, obviously protesting in front of the Capitol is that's not gonna move the needle. But if we're looking at science, both from a healthcare, but there's also some science that says some of these areas can be reopened, and especially in healthcare, why are we losing healthcare workers in the middle of a pandemic? So hopefully, the governor's press conference last night was devoid of specifics, except for he really does want to make sure everybody can get a test, that there's enough PPP equipment for people to go back to work. And then finally, I think Jim McIntyre, you asked about, is there a regional approach? Because obviously Clallam County, our numbers are very stable. I made a point in a communication that I sent to the governor specifically and with our team that's working on trying to reopen the economy. I mean, many of our small businesses, look, I don't know if any of you went to Costco lately, but I was there Saturday, and there's plenty of interactions going on. But our small businesses, they might have one or two people that would come into their store during the day. I think a small business owner can certainly practice.
Excuse me, Mike, Nadia, will you put I know, it looks like it's Nadia's.
Yes, I'm sorry.
So hopefully we can get some maybe approach to the rural economy that some of our small businesses can reopen if they practice the safe distancing, which is much easier than if you go to a Walmart or a Costco right now, or a Safeway at 5 o'clock. I think there does need to be a regional approach. And I think the idea that we're just obliterating our small businesses in the rural community, and for those that are struggling, for those who may say, my wife's business, she's in the construction business, so her business went poof instantly. And it is very difficult. I have two people in my household that are trying to navigate the unemployment, and it's been weeks, and neither one of them have received a dime yet. So the idea that money is getting out there quickly is not also helpful. So I think you have a lot of scared people right now. I think you have a lot of scared people, and I think you're going to have a lot of people that are just going to take maybe some actions into their own hands, which is not maybe going to be helpful long term. So this is a great challenge. And then, like Steve said, I can't imagine. We're going to have, some of our budget team is retiring at the end of the year, and I wouldn't want to touch that job with a 10-foot pole to rebuild the state budget after this, because I can imagine those numbers he gets this afternoon are going to be horrible, which is also going to lead to loss of services. People are losing their health care. I did have just an anecdotal. I did get one message yesterday from somebody who's retiring this month, and they had private health insurance through the end of the month. They needed two procedures they wanted to get done before they went into that gap between private and Medicare, and neither one of their doctors could do the surgical procedures because they weren't life-threatening, and yet they will be life-threatening if they don't get those. And the person emailed me and said, is there anything you can do? I asked them to send the message to the governor. I think that is also going to be a problem down the road, where people weren't able to get into a dentist, get into a doctor's appointment, and healthcare issues are going to explode on us from the delayed services. So that can't continue. But I'm not the governor, and he's the one with all the authority right now. So.
And there was a question around the hospitality industry. And of course, that's an important industry for us on the peninsula. So I think the idea is to try to think about how you would open up to, sort of match the public health, regimes. So fewer tables, masks, maybe you take temperatures of people or something, but be thoughtful. And I think that will help to a phasing in. That's a huge sector here, or a strong sector. So we just need to be creative on how we address this as far as the hospitality industry, because I think, the new normal is obviously going to be a challenge.
Is there any idea of a projection where you can have larger gatherings? I work with the Port Angeles Symphony, and we're trying to set our budget for next year, actually with having no concerts. We kind of did our austerity budget, and then we're looking at different avenues you know, we need to know if the schools are going to be open and whether we're going to be able to use that facility. Any projections, Steve and Mike?
You know what? That's a great question. I don't think that's something that's on the governor's radar. It is interesting. Yesterday, I don't know how many of you watch some of the news cycle. It gets a little fatiguing, but that Dr. Scott Gottlieb, who was a former, anyway, he seems to be an expert. Anyway, some news came out yesterday that the virus may break down in UV light. He was saying it nationally, maybe some of our events will be moved outside. I don't know how that would work for the symphony, but that apparently this summer they think that maybe some gatherings, but nothing that I'm hearing is talking about any kind of gatherings anytime soon. Sports leagues I heard yesterday the NBA is hoping to be started back up by next Christmas, the NFL by Thanksgiving, and Pete Carroll said yesterday he wasn't sure there was going to be anybody in the stadium. So I don't know that public gatherings are going to be anywhere on our radar anytime soon.
Hey,
Wash your
Mike and
hands.
Steve, I'm just wondering how. Hey, I'm wondering how close the governor is to the University of Washington and sticking with their projections, because I noticed yesterday they updated their maps for the state of Washington, or all the United States, and they're talking about May 25th to May 31st before the restrictions can start being relieved here in the state of Washington.
Yeah, I think, Brando, that's one data point. I don't think it's the ultimate data point. I think there's a number of data points. Some of the ones I mentioned, you know, that 200 cases dropping down to 100, that's a statewide number. I think it's just a matter of sort of managing all those issues, right? Looking at the capacity to handle any sort of surge, and, you know, as we phase in the economy, how that works. The testing's part of that. There was an interesting article yesterday in the New York Times about a thing you put on your finger that tests your oxygen level. I don't know if anybody saw that, but one of the things about this virus is people are coming in and they're feeling a slight fever, but they don't have, you know, their lungs seem to be okay. But what they're finding out is their lungs are not working. They're not bringing oxygen in. So people have really low oxygen levels. So we're just learning every day. We're learning more and more about how the virus works, which will help us then manage it. So I think it's just as we go sort of day by day, week by week, all these data points will be coming together. So I think it's just hard to tell at this point, but I think the university is just one of the things they look at. They look at other modeling from other countries and you know, like what's going on in Germany and South Korea. So it's a you know, a lot of data points.
Thank you, Steve.
Does anyone have any other questions? We're at 9 o'clock. I know that on April 30th, the EDC and the county commissioners are working on the first of a series of meetings, how we can collaboratively work for nonprofits, trying to find creative ways to get funding for the different nonprofits that handle critical health and human service issues across our county. So anyway, just letting you know about that, where we're working with Medina Foundation and the Albert Holler Foundation, and trying to figure out how to potentially leverage other state or federal programs with the funding that we receive that supports some of our most important nonprofits. So more information coming out about that, and hopefully we'll have some innovative ideas and model some best practices elsewhere.
Hey, Colleen.
So,
Colleen, can
yes,
I ask
Mark?
one
Yes.
general question here? So as a scorer mentor here, I'm helping people go through this process for the pandemic unemployment assistance. Anyway, you sent out that email that had the toolkit in there, and I looked at the PowerPoint. The question is the application 102 pages long? That's how many pages in the PowerPoint.
For the pandemic unemployment assistance?
Yeah, yeah.
It shouldn't be. I don't know.
Well, the PowerPoint was that long, the toolkit, that was the toolkit, and then all
That
those questions in
ESD
there.
produced. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Hey, Colleen, I have one
Yes.
item I'd like to just bring up. At our office, we've had a couple of calls this last week from people who worked out at the tribe who are losing their health insurance as of the end of the month. So I'd just like to let everyone know that if you have clients, customers, employees who are losing their health insurance, they can go to the wahealthplanfinder.org website. If their income has dropped to 0 or very low, they enter in what their income is now. So if it's unemployment, they enter that in, and they'll either qualify for Apple Health or low-cost health insurance. So now is not the time for people to be losing health insurance and just ignoring it, thinking I'll get back to work in the next month or two, because Murphy's Law says that's the time something bad will happen. So I'd just like to get the word out. There is an open enrollment right now through May the 8th, where there's no health questions pre-existing or anything, and people can get health insurance if they apply by May the 8th. That would start on May the 1st. So just wanted to get that word out as wide as we could.
Hey, Phil, if they're getting the pandemic and unemployment, well, that'll disqualify them dollar-wise, won't it?
No, because for a single person, they're still eligible for subsidies if their income's under about $4,000 a month, and for family, it's about $67,000 a year, so around $5,200 a month. So if their income's under that, they'd still qualify for subsidies.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Phil. I'll post something about that, or if you want to send me an email, I can send that out broadly.
Sure, thank you.
Thanks,
I
Phil.
just want to say thank you to Brandino and his group with WorkSource for jumping in with the claim center and answering phone calls. We were playing dialing for dollars for the last 2 days with an unemployment claim where someone has been denied for 4 weeks because there was a glitch, and they were supposed to be contacting the agency, which you couldn't do on the 800 numbers. But finally, after 2,000 rings, they got through and were able to clear it up, and they're supposed to have their money, well, like you said, tomorrow. So just thank you for the patience of your staff. I know they've been taking some abuse, according to the gentleman my son finally talked to. So thanks.
Yeah, let me just, this is Mike again. The system was never set up literally to kind of go from a full economy humming along to complete stop. And it has been a real problem. The website has been glitchy. They've tried to add some capacity. They actually put out a notice to the legislature for not have our assistants try to help people, which is kind of frustrating because at last resort, I know my office was getting a lot of, hey, can you help me? Excuse me. And so hopefully over the next week or two, that system will kind of find its equilibrium. But clearly we went from kind of a, 5% statewide unemployment, 3 in some areas to, the estimates could be as high as 20. So we really just went from 0 to, or 60, hit a wall. I think that was maybe that could have been handled a little differently and a little better. But if, folks know how to kind of help people, but we've been told as legislators not to try to help our constituents. So it doesn't mean we won't, but they're so overwhelmed. And like I said, I have firsthand experience on how difficult it has been to navigate.
So, and this is Brandino. Thanks for that. I will say this as well, that if you do have, especially if they're just employees that are having some issues, They can contact our office as well at 457-2103. And we're getting a lot better at being able to navigate into the system. And there are some of those issues that we could either potentially help clear ourselves or having direct contact in with the with some adjudicators in the office. I was actually able to clear up several of those over the last week just with the email, because we're so inundated with work that they just sit there and they're waiting for someone to get to them to fix. And then we send an email in that might be a reminder, oh yes, this one's overdue. Let me go in and fix that one, and it clears up. So have them give us a call at our office, and then we'll see what we can do on a local level as well to help clear that out.
Thanks so much, Brandino. We'll put that on the pandemic unemployment assistance link as a phone number. I won't put that out broadly, but if people go to the website, chooseclallamfirst.com, we'll put that as a resource under the tab of pandemic unemployment assistance.
Brandino, that was a path that I used last week, and your office staff did respond. They could look at the claim, but they couldn't do anything but send an email to the claim center. They sent several emails. When we finally got through and were able to talk to a claims adjuster yesterday, he said they have over 200,000 emails. And he says between the phones and the emails, it's just, they're overwhelmed. And they're doing great with the burden that they're carrying.
Hi, this is Peggy Getty. I own the New Moon Craft Tavern in Port Angeles. It's a small tavern. I'm actually, I think I'm even more confused now than I was at the beginning of this. Is there anybody on here who I can speak to offline to clear up some of my questions? I have been approved for a 30,000 PPP loan, but I'd like as much of it forgiven as I can, but at the same time, I'm not really sure what I can and cannot pay my employees without screwing up their unemployment. I've got a liquor license due the end of this month, or rather next month, and I don't have the money for it. So, I just, is there somebody I can talk to offline who can help?
Yes, absolutely, Peggy. So Graham, are you still on? Are you willing to take that, Claire?
Yes, happy to
Okay.
connect with you, Peggy.
Thank you. Is there contact info for you somewhere?
Yeah, I'm going to private message you now in the chat.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, anyone else? Thanks so much, Graham. Anyone else have any questions? If not, we're at 9:09. We'll go ahead and sign off and thank our business advisors who are working on this full-time pro bono, and also our representatives, both Representative Theringer and Chapman. Thank you so much. And Brandino, thank you for joining us and answering some questions and providing the local number to call when folks have additional questions. We will get through this together. We'll keep on going. There will be an end to it. So thank you so much for joining and all the work we're doing together to help these incredibly important businesses. Thank you. Bye.
Okay, thanks, Colleen.
Thank you.
Peggy, do you see my contact information in the private chat?
Yeah, I'm writing it down now. So
Okay.
I don't lose it.
Okay, we can jump on a call. Give me 5 minutes, and then we can go ahead and give me a call at that number I gave you.
Okay, that'd be perfect. Thank you very much.
Okay. Yes, talk to you in a few.
All right.